relationship with them.
Yeah, we do get close to our clients. They're sharing information with us.
Yeah.
That's very emotional, that's very confidential, that's very personal. And so, yes, we get to know our clients extremely well and are really there to not only be their legal support, but to be, on some level, their emotional support, to be compassionate, to be patient, to be understanding. And again, because we understand the clinical system so well as the legal system, we can really act as interpreters in a lot of cases to explain to clinical staff what's going on from our perspective and our client's perspective, and to give families the scripts that they need when they speak to people in a hospital or in a clinical setting, to understand the options that may be available. Psychiatry is actually the only area of medicine that is so closely linked to the legal system. And that grew out of, unfortunately, the abuses that were happening in the mental health system for many years. People were in hospitals endlessly, chained to radiators, shot up with Thorazine, which was actually the original, the initial antipsychotic medication.
Called the Thorazine shuffle.
Yes, exactly. And because of those abuses, many of our bodies of mental hygiene laws in every state, came about. What I have seen, though, is that the pendulum has almost swung in the other direction now too far. In other words, the laws that are designed to protect patients, and I'm, certainly are supportive of those and think they're important, very often are used as a shield to shut families out. And so it's an attempt to strike a balance between patients' rights and families' rights, really. Confidentiality statutes, which, depend on patients to give consent for families to access information or speak to treatment teams, are often upset that they're in the hospital, are very psychotic and really not thinking rationally. And we're asking them, is it okay if we speak to your parents or your family members who you're going to go home and live with and have brought you to the hospital, and we're depending on that patient at that moment to give consent to access information.
Wow.
And so, again, I think these laws are designed to protect patients, as they should be, but I think there needs to be a review of some of these laws in order to strike some sort of rational and reasonable balance so that families who care for these individuals, can continue to do the best work they can for them.
That is really fascinating. I'd love to know what is it? Where's the balance? Where do you think it is? For example, yes,
the HIPAA law, the Federal Confidentiality Information Statute, which actually has also, the other side of it is state law, which, each state has their own confidentiality statutes, many of which are even more strict than the federal HIPAA law. My recommendation has been, and, someday it may come to fruition, is to consider families to be part of the treatment team who are allowed to share medical information, with someone, so that there can be collaboration and, working ultimately in the best interest of the individual. And we can put in safeguards so that people are not accessing, confidential psychiatric information and using it for nefarious means. But I can tell you, of the hundreds of families that we work with, it's very, very rare that families want that information for nefarious reasons. It's really always, in my experience, to be able to help plan for bringing their loved one back home or placement in the community or getting services for them. But they can't be shut out the way they are because, their hands are tied and then their options are limited.
That's so comforting to hear. And that's what I would assume. I mean, family members send a loved one when they have to put their hands up and say, I don't know how to help this person anymore. I don't know what to do. And I want this person to have the best life that they possibly can and the best medical. And I'm sending them to the hospital because I love them. So it's so nice to hear that the majority that you work with are, you want to be involved because they're the best interest of the person who needs help is at stake.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is really. Now you practice in New York.
Yes, my law practice is in New York. We do, though, consult with other attorneys across the country. I've actually gotten calls internationally from people asking for, some input or direction. So it's a national practice in a way, although I certainly don't practice law per se outside of the New York area.
Mm-hmm. Are you considered a consult if someone wanted to call you internationally or from another state? Can you practice law within New York State to assist them in other states?
Not in terms of the practice of law, but certainly can give direction, or will reach out to local counsel. Nice. And work collaboratively with them within their own state laws and requirements.
That's fantastic. Now, do you know any sister or brother or whatever you want to call it, law firms in other states in the country who do what you do or work synonymously with you in their state statute?
I have relationships with other lawyers or firms in different states who do similar type work, but I have yet to find, and I'm open to finding them, another firm or practice that practices that has the same kind of practice as I do.
I'm hoping somebody today hears you and gives you a call and says, hey, look, we can collaborate. I'm in the West Coast, you're in the East Coast. Let's talk,
Yep.
That would be remarkable. Oh, gosh. So 30 years you've been practicing?
Yes. I started when I was 5 years old. No,
that's what I was going to say. Yes, you are a very, very advanced student. Kindergarten.
Yes.
Your kindergarten psychiatric. It's like Lucy and Linus and Charlie Brown. You had a psychiatric a booth outside that said 5 cents psychotherapy. Oh, that's great. Well, that's incredible. Well, congratulations on your 35th birthday and your 30 years in practice.
Thank you.
That is remarkable. So, is your practice, let me just ask, only because I had a couple of questions from people from the Mental Health News Radio Network who wanted to ask me stuff about, is your practice in New York City itself, or is it outside the city, and where can you be found?
We have a variety of offices. Okay. We have a satellite office in Manhattan in New York City. Our main office is in Lake Success, which is right on the border of Queens and Long Island. We have a big office in Brooklyn, and we have an office in Rochester, New York. But my team actually travel throughout the state as needed, when we have cases in other counties and other jurisdictions throughout New York State. And one of my staff is actually admitted in New Jersey, so we are able to do cases in New Jersey. And another colleague of mine is admitted in Connecticut, so we can go to other states, and those are assigned to the attorneys who are admitted in those states.
Carolyn, you're a godsend. You really are. I mean, this is something that people don't know they have access to. They don't. And I'm sure you run into that every single day. They say, oh, I have someone who can help me, who can help my family, who can help my family first and foremost navigate all of this. This is really incredible stuff.
Yeah, we get that a lot. I wish I knew about you 5 years ago. I wish someone had told me about you, 3 years ago, and so on. And actually, my staff also have other specific areas of expertise in addition to mental health law. One of my partners does criminal mental health cases.
Oh, wow.
his sort of, area of expertise in addition to the mental health law. Another of my partners does discrimination cases, people who have mental illness and have some sort of discrimination issue, whether it's in housing or in their workplace or in a school setting.
Oh, wow.
We do guardianships, we do mental health warrants, we do orders of protection. And each of us, have different sort of subsets of expertise in addition to, our overall concentration in mental health law.
Wow. I know personally the need for law when it comes to mental health discrimination in the workplace. It really, and you have to be very, in my humble opinion and in my humble experience, I've had to be very quiet historically about my diagnosis. As an educator, as a writer, I can be as creative as I want, which is fantastic. But in education, there's a very quiet stigma. There's a lot of people who are very supportive, but there are a lot of people who are quietly uncomfortable working with someone thinking that this mental illness is going to be a hindrance or not, quote unquote, look good. And it's really great to hear that there is someone and a firm like yours that will help people navigate that.
Yeah, stigma is still a challenge in the world in which we work. People have, as you've said, set ideas about somebody who has mental illness. Certainly a lot of misinformation is out there about the law, about mental illness in general, this view that, people are violent and so on. I mean, in fact, people are so misinformed. People with serious mental illness are more often the victims of violence than the perpetrators of violence. So we do, we really try hard to do lectures and writing and outreach to the community to try and address the misinformation and give accurate information about the reality, of what happens when someone is confronting an issue, a mental health issue, or a mental illness.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. I had a question, and I wanted to broach this with you, from a young lady. She's actually a New Jersey resident, and I say young lady because she is very young, 23 years old. An anonymous writer, she wrote saying she was diagnosed with bipolar schizoaffective disorder 4 years ago because of, I'm trying to get through because of, okay, she was diagnosed with the issue. She needed law. She needed someone to assist her with with a case that goes along with, she was involved in something that she was found guilty. I'm trying to get through. It's very unclear. Okay, she was found guilty in a burglary as an accessory to a burglary, but it was not guilty, and was in a manic state because of this because of her having been found guilty. She was put into a mental hospital, and that's where she had her diagnosis. And since then, she has dealt with a lot of legal issues. She has gotten herself together, and she's wondering, for somebody who does not have the wherewithal to pay for legal assistance, how does your firm deal with something like that? I'm sorry, that was very long-winded. I couldn't quite understand what she was asking, but now I understand. She's asking if somebody needs monetary assistance, will your firm work with them?
Each case is different or is individual, and these are issues that we do confront.
Okay.
It really depends on the situation. Sometimes we'll make referrals to agencies who can represent patients free of charge or do pro bono work. We will sometimes co-counsel with other lawyers, so we're sort of in the background, and guiding another attorney who, may be doing pro bono work or who represents a state agency. We also work with families to try and get benefits, financial benefits for an individual so that they have some source of income or some ways of getting, monetary